Hey guys, how's it going? So UFC Fight Night Hill versus Rountree just wrapped up, and I'm going to run through the whole card and give you guys a breakdown of everything that happened this event. So let's just jump straight into it. And opening up the card was Hamdy Abdelwahab versus Mohammed Usman. Now I said that Mohammed Usman was going to take this one by a decision win. He actually did take this one, and it was by a decision win, so I got that correct. It was a pretty good performance from him, 29-28 decision. But breaking it down, round one, instantly Abdelwahab starts kicking at the calf of Usman, and it causes his leg to give out from under him. Usman had some really weird footwork. I've noticed his legs sort of give out from under him very often, even when they're not injured. And Abdelwahab just started targeting this front leg for the rest of the round. Usman, on the other hand, just kept jabbing at Abdelwahab, but nothing was landing, and even when it wasn't really doing much damage. At the end of the round, Usman landed a bit harder, but also got caught with sort of bigger shots from Abdelwahab, who most likely won that round. Round two, Usman starts mixing up his shot selection a bit more and is landing harder on Abdelwahab. One shot in the halfway point really sort of backed him up and got him against the cage. And while Abdelwahab was putting up a sort of decent fight on the feet, he was not landing with the power that Usman started to land with. Usman really started to pick up, especially with his power shots in these second and third rounds. And I think he won the second primarily through that. Third round, pretty much a repeat of the last round, with Usman landing significantly harder than anything Abdelwahab would hit him with. Surprisingly, Abdelwahab doesn't shoot in for a takedown this round either. He didn't shoot in for a single takedown this whole fight, I don't think. And he never took the fight to the ground, which is an area where usually he finds a lot more success. And with a shot at the end of the fight really hurting Abdelwahab and having up against the fence, taking a lot of punishment, the round clearly went to Usman. Usman took the decision. It was a very, very sloppy fight. There wasn't really much technique. I mean, it was alright, nothing amazing. And yeah, Usman has some of the weirdest looking footwork in the UFC. That's really what I took away from this fight. Next fight on the card. Next up on the card was Tagir Ulanbekov versus Azat Maksum. So I predicted that Tagir Ulanbekov would win this one by round 2 submission. Tagir did win this one, although it went to a decision, and a very, very close decision despite what the scorecards would lead you to believe. This was a very, very competitive fight. So in round 1, very early in the fight, Ulanbekov shoots in for a takedown, which Maksum does a great job in defending. He doesn't let Ulanbekov get any follow-up takedowns either. And when he gets back to the feet, Maksum's landing nicely on Ulanbekov, but it is at the same time receiving a lot of punishment. And while it's a very, very close round, I'd honestly have to give it to Maksum due to him defending the takedowns and looking slightly better and a bit more busy on the feet. Round 2 takes a surprisingly long time for a takedown attempt to be made in this round. Maksum landed some more damaging shots early on the feet, and Ulanbekov was doing sort of better in the clinch throughout the fight. Around halfway through the round, Ulanbekov shoots in again and gets denied, and later in the round when Ulanbekov attempts a second takedown, Maksum throws him off and later takes the back where he sort of lifts him, takes Ulanbekov down actually, and just starts sort of getting him on the ground. And Ulanbekov just kept cheating this fight as well. Whenever Maksum would try and take him down, Ulanbekov would grab the cage. There was one really bad case of that in the second round. And at the end of the round, Maksum almost got caught in a guillotine while he was taking him down, but survived, and in my opinion won this round as well, but it was also a very, very close round. Round 3, surprisingly, Ulanbekov started sort of landing better on the feet this round, especially in the clinch. He started sort of entering the clinch a lot more and landed these knees and these elbows and these body shots. But even still, Ulanbekov was just unable to get Maksum to the ground. Maksum was shooting in and getting denied as well though, but it stayed on the feet for most of the round, which Ulanbekov was arguably winning there. There was a moment at the end where it looked like Ulanbekov was going to get Maksum to the ground, but Maksum reversed the takedown and made it the first ever fight where Ulanbekov wasn't able to take his opponent down, which is very, very impressive. And when it goes to the cards, it goes to a unanimous decision with Ulanbekov winning, being 2-30-27 cards, which I think is insane. I think Maksum at least won maybe 1, if not 2 rounds. In fact, I actually had it scored that he would win this, but alas not. I'm kind of glad my prediction was correct, but also at the same time, this fight was incredibly close. Yeah, very, very sort of fun technical fight. Next fight on the card. Following that, we had Irina Alekseeva versus Klaudia Sygula. So I had that Irina Alekseeva was going to win this one by a decision win. I was actually very, very wrong. Klaudia Sygula came out and looked absolutely dominant, taking a decision win in this one. So round 1, very early, Sygula comes out quick, kicking at the front leg of Alekseeva, and whenever she would not be kicking at that front leg, she'd be landing an overhand. Granted, these weren't really doing that much damage. They were bouncing the head back of Alekseeva, but they weren't really dazing or anything. Alekseeva is throwing and landing decently every now and then. She's landing bigger, but it's not often, and more often than not when she swings, she often missed and overswung and got caught with a counter. And while Alekseeva has a moment at the end, it doesn't make up for the first half where she's just getting tagged by Sygula with these overhands consistently. Round 1 definitely goes to Sygula. Round 2 starts off similar to the first. Sygula's landing overhands and hooks on the head of Alekseeva. Alekseeva lands hard to the body, especially this round, with Sygula dropping her hands and backing into the cage, where she took a bit more damage around halfway through the fight. And halfway through the round, Alekseeva gets kicked in the groin for the second time this fight. She got kicked once in the first. In the second, she got kicked again. This one was bad. This one had her on the ground, down on her knees. She got back up again, walked it off, but I feel like that might have impacted her, maybe. I don't know. I know when in guys fights when it happens, obviously, but I don't know what it's like as a female fighter. But yeah, at the end of the round, Alekseeva starts trying to rush him with heavy combos and is landing here and there, but is also getting caught when she isn't throwing, and her nose begins to start bleeding. She gets busted open pretty badly on the face, so I'll probably have to give it to Klaudia Sygula again. Round 3, Alekseeva comes out very, very strong, with her blitzing and landing big on Sygula, kicking her into the cage and landing a flurry of punches, but very quickly it goes back to sort of the styles of the last round. Sygula actually drops Alekseeva this round with a sort of follow-up back fist after throwing a straight, so she throws a straight, sort of whips it back and then hits her with a back fist. It was very, very impressive. And also implements a takedown and holds top position to secure the third round. Overall, Sygula takes a decision in a fight that wasn't the most amazing fight in the world, but it was a pretty fun scrap, quite violent as well. In fact, the 2 female fights on the prelims were probably some of the best fights on this whole entire card, so yeah. Next fight on the card. Next up on the prelims was Daria Zalesniakova versus Melissa Mullins. Now, I said that Melissa Mullins was going to take this one by a decision win. Like the previous fight, I was completely wrong. Zalesniakova took this one by a very, very dominant decision win. It was actually the opposite of what I predicted pretty much. So breaking down the fight, round 1, Zalesniakova comes out very hot. She's landing big on Mullins early. In fact, she had this one shot very early that dazed Mullins badly, had her backing up. Zalesniakova sort of chased it. This was all in the first minute, by the way. Couldn't get it done. She was sort of throwing a flurry of punches, but Mullins was sort of backing her up a bit by throwing her own punches back while being sort of dazed. It slowed down Zalesniakova, and Mullins sort of recovered as the fight went on. Later in the round, Mullins did actually land a clean counter that had Zalesniakova backing up, where she got tagged with some big shots in the last 30 seconds. Before Mullins sort of took Zalesniakova to the ground. Almost got her in an armbar as well at the end of the round, but couldn't quite break the grip. Overall, I think this one would go to Zalesniakova because of that moment in the first minute of the fight, but Mullins did make it very scrappy and close in the second half of that round. Round 2 opens up. The fight slowed down significantly. You can tell that they sort of both want a bit of a breather after that first round, and neither really threw much impact. There was a few moments. And while Zalesniakova had slowed down and was landing much, much less than the round before, at least she was landing. Outside of a counterpunch, Mullins wasn't really landing anything big that whole round. And to definitively take the round, Zalesniakova lands a well-timed punch to the liver that sort of dropped Mullins. And Zalesniakova tried to follow up, find a finish, but ended up just wrestling on the ground to finish out the round, but definitely took that round. In round 3, again, another round where Zalesniakova's pushing the pace, throwing consistently, pushing forward, while Mullins sort of sits on the back foot, doesn't really throw anything back. Mullins does take Zalesniakova down and is able to control her against the cage for a good portion of the round. Zalesniakova blatantly cheats when she gets taken down. She tried to grab the cage, or she got like a little bit of a grab in, which altered sort of where she landed in the takedown. Either of the way, she still did get taken down, and they didn't really deduct any points for it, but still, you'll notice a lot of sort of cheating in this card. But ultimately, it goes to the card. Zalesniakova takes a clear decision and wins the fight. It was a really, really fun fight. It was surprisingly violent. I didn't really expect their sort of styles to lead to this violent of a fight. They were both sort of beat up badly. A lot of damage taken in this fight. And they both sort of gave it their all, put it all on the table in a very scrappy, fun, brutal slugfest. Yeah, one of the best fights on the card. Next up on the card was Ismail Naurdiev versus Jungyong Park. So I said that Jungyong Park was going to take this one by a decision win. And I was actually correct. He did take this one by a decision. but the decision was a lot more dominant than I could have ever predicted, but we'll get into why that was in a second. So round 1 opens up fairly even striking battle to start the fight, with Naurdiev sort of blitzing in from range while Park's sort of thriving in these closer encounters. But as the round goes on, Naurdiev starts to land harder and in combination on the head of Park, but Park just keeps moving forward, landing his own counters. Fairly even until there was a moment where Park sort of wobbles and stumbles Naurdiev with a pretty big shot, and shortly after lands big to the body, pushes him back against cage, starts elbowing him. But outside of an eye poke halfway through the round, there wasn't much else that happened. I thought Naurdiev did take this one. Park landed big, but Naurdiev was just landing more, looked busier, but very close round. Round 2, as soon as the round starts, Naurdiev pokes Park in the eye again after being warned sort of near the end of that last round. And when they reset, Park just starts landing big on Naurdiev, and when they're against the fence and Park's on a knee, Naurdiev knees Park in the head, and this was very shortly after, and cuts Park open, swells his eye up. Naurdiev actually thought he won and starts pulling an Anderson Silver. He jumps up on the cage, starts celebrating, not really knowing that not only is the fight not over, but he just committed the most blatant sort of cheat you can, kneeing a grounded opponent. That's like borderline no contest worthy. Amazingly, they let the fight continue. The doctor's asking Park if he's good to go, and Park is a G because he just says yes. He agrees to continue. Naurdiev gets a 2-point deduction, so borderline Naurdiev has to finish the fight now or he's going to draw at least. And as soon as the fight continues, Park rushes in, tries to take Naurdiev down, holds him against the cage for a bit. He's a lot more aggressive from this point on. And later in the round, when the fight gets to the ground, Park takes it back of Naurdiev and just starts threatening submissions. He's sort of crushing him down from the back, and he definitely won that round just through control time, but also the 2-point deduction. But outside of that, he would have won the round regardless. And then in round 3, Park gets Naurdiev in a clinch where he knees, elbows. Naurdiev's exhausted. He gets taken down very easily, and Park secures the back again. And for the rest of the round, Park maintains dominant position. He tries different submissions, lands some ground and pound here and there, just looks a bit busier on the ground. At the end of the round, he locks in a rear naked choke, very, very tight, that if given some more time probably would have caused Naurdiev to tap. But the round ends, saves Naurdiev. When it gets to the cards, Park takes a 29-26 decision win. In fact, I think one of the judges gave it 29-25, which is even crazier. But I think this fight increased Park's stock humongously. The fact that he continued fighting even though he was cut open, he got eye poked twice in each eye, and then sort of had this massive swollen eye throughout the rest of the fight. Granted, there was a 2-point deduction, but still the fact that Park just continued and didn't take the no contest win shows sort of the dog in Jungyong Park. So yeah, this one was actually a pretty fun fight. It's a shame that there were so many fouls, but it is what it is. Next up, we have Seokyeong Ko versus Oban Elliott. So I predicted that Oban Elliott was going to win this one by a 3rd round KO. I was actually very, very wrong. Seokyeong Ko won this one, and it wasn't even close. It was a very, very dominant decision. Yes, I know, another decision. There were a lot of these on this card. But yeah, he absolutely dominated this fight. Breaking it down, round 1, Ko starts instantly putting the pressure on Elliott. Elliott sort of was backing up against cage pretty much this whole round. And Ko would just constantly push him back with sort of his jumpy, hoppy sort of karate stance. And then he'd land every now and then. But around midway through the fight, Ko judo throws Elliott and then just sits on top of him on top position. He lands some good ground and pound. Elliott, I think, did try and get up, but also then just got taken down instantly again. But it was a somewhat close round to start with, but I think this one definitely goes to Ko. Round 2, very early in the round, Ko starts hurting Elliott when Elliott sort of starts panic shooting, and Ko manages to reverse these and end up taking Elliott's back. Where against the cage, he's just constantly taking him down, landing ground and pound. Whenever Elliott would try and get up, he'd just pull the legs out from under him. And while all Ko really did this round was maintain dominant position, Elliott didn't land anything this round before getting taken down, and he wasn't really doing much on the ground outside of staying on bottom position, so you can't really make an argument that he won the round. And then round 3, Elliott just looked exhausted from the start of the round, while Ko sort of looked the same. He did. He's still hopping around. He looked pretty fresh, like he didn't really look worn out at all. And as a result, he's very easily able to get Elliott up against the fence and get him down on the ground, put him on bottom position. And on the ground, Ko lands some nasty elbows, one of which cuts Elliott open badly. And like the last round, Elliott just cannot get back to the feet to save his life. Ko's a very competent wrestler, I think, or Oban Elliott needs to work on his wrestling. But in this fight, he just got held down and it didn't really look like he had any opening to get up again. Goes to the decision. Ko takes a very dominant 30-27 decision for this fight where
Ko just looked amazing in the wrestling. Oban maybe didn't look amazing in the wrestling, or it just shows how good Ko is. And Ko's known for his striking as well, so this was a nice change up from what we're used to seeing, but wasn't the most exciting fight on earth. Yeah. Next up we have Mohammed Naimov versus Bogdan Grad. So I said that Mohammed Naimov was going to take this one by decision win, and I got this correct. Mohammed Naimov won this one, decision win. Pretty boring fight, to be honest with you, but we'll break it down. Round 1, very slow round to start with. Grad's pushing forward, but not much else of impact. Halfway through the round, Naimov lands a spinning wheel kick that lands square on the head of Grad. Dazes him badly, he's sort of wobbling around on his feet. Naimov tries to get a finish, but ends up getting his back taken and isn't able to sort of land anything else. Outside of that, not much else happened this round. Naimov most likely took it with that spinning wheel kick that did quite a bit of damage to Grad, because nothing else really impactful happened for the rest of the round. Round 2, very uneventful round as well. Neither fighter was really throwing anything of fight-altering impact. They were sort of just trading single shots. It looked like a sparring session pretty much. Late in the round, Naimov almost gets Grad in a guillotine and sort of yanks it pretty hard when he goes to shoot him for a takedown. But he ends up getting held against a cage and taken down in the final seconds of the round. Very close, I guess, because no one really threw anything impactful, and Grad did look a bit better in the wrestling. But yeah, not much to score off of. Round 3, Grad takes it back early in the round, but ends up on bottom position for pretty much the rest of the round. Once again, nothing much. It just came down to who was holding dominant position. There's a moment on the feet at the end of the fight where sort of they got to strike with each other, but once again, nothing major was thrown. Naimov takes the decision, 29-28. This fight was pretty boring. There wasn't really anything exciting or impactful following the first round. And it went to another decision. Next up is the saving grace of this card. This was probably the best fight. In fact, this was the best fight in the card, not even probably. In fact, this could be Fight of the Year contender. But it was like very good. Probably one of the best fights this year I've seen, if not the best. Nazim Sadykhov versus Nikolas Motta. I said that Nazim Sadykhov was going to take this one by decision win. He did win this one, but surprisingly, he actually got it done in the second round via a KO, and a pretty nasty one at that. So breaking down the fight, round 1, straight out of the gate, both fighters are bouncing around. They're firing off kicks, they're firing off punches, they're targeting all parts of the body. And they're doing this really fast. They're whipping their kicks up, sort of throwing their hands out really fast, landing pretty impactfully. And halfway through the round, Motta gets Sadykhov up against the cage, where he starts just throwing like crazy. He starts landing everything he has in his arsenal on Sadykhov. Hooks to the body, straight to the body, hooks to the head. Just throwing anything and everything he can for a good 40 seconds. Sadykhov's sort of ducking and weaving around, holding up a high guard. At one point he does get dropped and makes his way back up to the feet. Once again, taking a lot of punishment while sort of getting back up there from these flurries of punches coming from Motta. But he manages to break away from Motta's onslaught. Sadykhov starts instantly pushing forward as well, landing his own big shots while he is like dazed, or at least sort of like, he definitely wasn't completely all there. And he pushes Motta up against the cage and starts going ham on him as well against the cage. So sort of even round, but Motta just kept going with that. Sadykhov got maybe 4 or 5 off, and then Motta sort of escaped. Both fighters were doing a lot of damage, but overall you probably had to give this round to Motta. So round 2 opens up. Straight away they start trading combinations, with Sadykhov landing an elbow on Motta that split his forehead open pretty badly. And despite this, Motta's still moving forward, and sort of they're both trading these crazy exchanges. Halfway through the round, Sadykhov starts punching and kicking through the guard of Motta. He starts sort of whipping these kicks around from short distance, hitting the back of Motta's head. He's punching these straight through the high guard of Motta. He's doing a lot. He gets him up against the cage, where he starts ripping to the body with hooks. He starts landing clean, right hook to the body, left hook to the body. And then he landed this sort of left-right hook combination, and the right hook landed clean on the jaw of Motta and put him down and out badly. And this was a complete dogfight. Both of these fighters came in here trying to seriously do damage to each other. Nazim Sadykhov, definitely you could tell he was doing it for the crowd of his hometown, and he won 2 bonuses for this. I think he won both performance and fight of the night. In fact, Motta even won a performance bonus, and he lost the fight. That's how good this fight was. It really saved the card, honestly. And after I think it was 7 back-to-back decision performances, it was amazing to see this fight. Honestly, it could be Fight of the Year, but we'll have to see what happens later in the year. But yeah, this one was the best fight of the card. Next up on the card was Tofiq Musayev versus Myktybek Orolbai. So I predicted that Myktybek Orolbai was going to take this one by a decision win. He actually won this one by a round 1 submission, but there is sort of a catch weight to it. So round 1 opens up and the fight had to be moved to catch weight, and you can instantly tell that Orolbai is a lot bigger than his opponent. Orolbai was the one that struggled to make weight. It got moved to a 165 catch weight. Orolbai usually fights at 155. Tofiq Musayev looked like a 155er. And Orolbai's physicality this fight was his biggest strength. He was picking up Musayev, sort of throwing him down, shooting him for these takedowns they would easily get. And whenever he got on top position, Orolbai would just sort of land ground and pound and just hold Musayev down. And while inside control in the last 30 seconds of the fight, he cranks the left arm of Musayev in a Kimura, where Musayev just instantly starts screaming in pain. I think Orolbai had his other arm pinned down because he like sort of starts screaming and then he releases his arm out and starts tapping. But yeah, there wasn't really much else outside of this. Good first round finish for Orolbai, but it was somewhat squandered by the fact that he missed weight and Tofiq Musayev in his debut. So this like guy who's coming for another promotion in the debut fight, and his opponent misses weight and beats him by round 1 submission. It's really unfortunate, but yeah, good win nonetheless. Next fight on the card. And moving up the card, we have Curtis Blaydes versus Rizvan Kuniev. So I predicted that Curtis Blaydes was going to get this one done by round 2 TKO. He did actually win this one. He won this one by a split decision, and it was a very, very close split decision. In fact, a lot of people are saying that he robbed Kuniev. I personally had it scored that Kuniev was going to win this one, but I did think a few of the rounds were very, very close. So we'll break down the fight. Round 1, instantly Blaydes tackles Kuniev to the ground, where Kuniev does a good job of getting back to the feet, but quickly he gets held against the cage. Blaydes starts sort of defending, Kuniev starts defending most of Blaydes' takedown while against the cage, but Blaydes is sort of kneeing at the legs, trying to pull him down again, and this whole time he kept reaching for the cage. Once again, another case of this happening, but when Blaydes took him down again, he tried to reach for the cage to grab it, but was just out of reach, didn't manage to do it, but it was really suspicious how often he'd try and do that. With 2 minutes left in the round, they sort of meet again in the center of the octagon, where both are landing good, but Blaydes is being a little too slick on the feet for Kuniev to land anything. He's sort of moving his head around a bit more, sort of squatting down, changing levels. So Blaydes took that first round very, very clearly. Round 2, on the feet, Kuniev's struggling with Blaydes' head movement. Kuniev's missing a lot of his shots, especially the big ones that he's throwing are sort of landing a meter or so away from Blaydes' head, with Blaydes sort of ducking out the way, squatting down, moving, avoiding. And Blaydes is definitely scoring more when it comes to the volume. As the round goes on though, Blaydes starts throwing less and less and starts getting caught with the bigger shots from Kuniev, with the damage being very visible on his face. And in the final minute of the sort of this round, Blaydes attempts a single leg but can't complete it and ends up separating on the feet, where Kuniev just starts teeing off on Blaydes. He starts sort of landing these long combinations of hooks to Blaydes' head. And it was a very, very close round, but I scored it towards Kuniev. Round 3 opens up. On the feet, Blaydes is sort of mixing up his shot selection. He's landing nicely to every sort of part of the body. But he does get caught with a knee down the center that lands square on his head, wobbles him backwards, and when he's up against the cage, he gets hit with some more big shots from Kuniev. He managed to recover, sort of backs up, gets back on the feet, and for the rest of the round, he's slowly picking away at Kuniev from range. Shoots in again, starts holding him against the cage in a large part of the round. And at the end of the round, Blaydes holds Kuniev against the cage, starts landing some big shots in the clinch where he's sort of elbowing the head, ripping to the body, tagging him with some really big shots. Bell goes. It's kind of hard to tell who won that one. I actually had that one as the closest round out of all of them, but I did say Kuniev won that one. But when it goes to scorecards, Blaydes takes it by a very, very close split decision. I scored it for Kuniev personally, but Blaydes takes it 29-28. But I'm going to let it slide because honestly I didn't think Kuniev really deserved a matchup like this, and I thought this was kind of doing Blaydes a bit dirty. So no harm, no foul in my eyes, but yeah. As for what's next for Blaydes, maybe he caught out Gun. I think maybe a Volkov or an Almeida matchup would be better. I actually prefer the idea of him fighting Almeida. I think that'd be a pretty fun match. And he did also say in this post-fight that in the first round he tore his MCL, so that would actually sort of explain sort of why he started slowing down and stopped shooting in as much and getting successful takedowns in the second and third. But yeah, that fight was pretty average. yeah, next fight on the card. And now onto the co-main event, Rafael Fiziev versus Ignacio Bahamondes. So I said that Ignacio Bahamondes was going to take this one by a decision. I just saw Fiziev struggling to deal with the range of Bahamondes. I was actually wrong. Fiziev took this one by a decision, and it was a pretty dominant win. There were a few bits where it got a bit close, and Bahamondes did definitely make it competitive at points, but Fiziev took this one. So round one, very, very slow start to the fight. Main shot that was thrown throughout the first round were leg kicks. It was mainly just sort of both the fighters feeling each other out. They were changing stances in sync with each other. I think Rafael Fiziev was sort of changing stances. Ignacio Bahamondes would match him to sort of throw him off. But Fiziev probably won this round just by landing the bigger shots and consistently pushing forward, but really there wasn't really much to score on in this first round. You could even argue that Bahamondes won it because he clipped Fiziev a few times, but very, very close round. Round two, very early in the round, Bahamondes shoots him for a takedown that Fiziev defends very, very well. He starts tagging Bahamondes over the top when they separate from the clinch. And back on the feet, Fiziev is being very, very patient, while Bahamondes is sort of throwing anything he can. He's throwing these spin kicks that Fiziev is ducking under. He's throwing these wild sort of shots over the top that are sometimes tagging Fiziev, but more likely than not, Fiziev's dodging out of the way of them. But what really changes the trajectory of this round is when Fiziev takes Bahamondes down twice and holds him a bottom position for the final sort of minute and a bit of the fight. Bahamondes starts pulling guard that Fiziev just starts chopping the legs at, and it looks really, really bad. So yeah, probably a very clear-cut round for Fiziev in my opinion. Round three, Fiziev starts to let go of the hands a lot more. This round he's throwing more combos, using his footwork and head movement to avoid any counters from Bahamondes. And like the round before, Bahamondes is having his moments here and there on the feet, making it decently competitive, but they're very far and few between, with Fiziev sort of consistently putting the pressure on him. And in the end, it's a takedown at the end of the round that sort of causes Fiziev to win this round. In a very competitive bout on the feet, but Bahamondes did land some nasty elbows from bottom position at the end, so maybe you could argue that he won based on damage. He cut open Fiziev in this final round, but I think more likely than not, those sort of elbows at the end weren't enough to make up for sort of the Fiziev domination. Ultimately, Fiziev takes a 30-27 scorecard where both fighters looked very solid, but it was Bahamondes' lack of takedown defense that really sort of caused him to lose his fight. As for what's next for Fiziev, maybe the loser of Moicano Dariush, or maybe even the winner of that fight. Bahamondes, maybe for a Ziam, someone outside the rankings, Jesus. But yeah, this was actually a decently fun fight. Bit of a slow start though, which was unfortunate, but yeah, it picked up a bit near the end. And now on to the main event, Jamahal versus Khalil Rountree Jr. So I said that Jamahal was going to win this one by a round 5 KO. In hindsight, I don't know why I changed up. The whole time when this fight got announced to about a week ago, I was thinking Khalil Rountree's going to run through Jamahal. He's just too technical, too skilled. Jamahil's not got it in him anymore. And then last minute I was thinking, man, but Rountree has lost to some really sort of average opponents. He lost to Dustin Jacoby. Oh, well, he won, but very, very close fight. He got knocked out by Sadykhov. And then I started to sort of think, he might be a bit underrated. But in the end, Khalil Rountree took this one. Very dominant decision win for him here. So break it down. Round one, just like most of the other fights on this card, very, very slow first round. Both fighters are coming out very patient. Hill actually starts targeting the main leg first. But Rountree starts sort of matching him with leg kicks, and Rountree is obviously winning when it comes to sort of this leg kick exchange. He's a very heavy Muay Thai style, so he can definitely take leg kicks like it's no problem, while Hill very early on was starting to sort of show a bit of damage on his lead calf. Hill lets his hands go a bit later in this round, but he kept sort of getting forced back with kicks from Rountree to the legs and body. So ultimately, I thought this was a pretty clear round for Rountree. Round two opens up. Rountree's starting to sort of let the hands fly a little bit, but he keeps his calf kicks going, and in this round they're starting to sort of do a bit more damage and build up. And he was constantly sort of swapping between stances, or quickly when he's being range, he'd sort of swap to orthodox for a second, then swap back to southpaw, then sort of let go. And outside of that, it was just another fairly low volume round, with Hill sort of missing all his shots. Khalil Rountree's head movement was pretty good in this fight, and whenever Hill would sort of throw a big power shot over the top, Hill would just duck out of the way and then sort of kick him to the body or kick him to the legs. So I thought this round two was a pretty clear Rountree round. Round three, the same thing as the last two rounds, with Hill not really throwing much. He's getting caught with the kicks from Rountree, kicks to the body, push kicks, all these different sort of kicks that he's mixing in. And Rountree was also landing a bit more with his hands this round. In fact, Rountree dropped Hill twice. He dropped him once sort of halfway through when he was sort of overswung, and then Rountree caught him with this counter hook that dropped him. And then at the end of the round, Hill just blitzed in, Rountree blitzed in and dropped Hill bad again with the same sort of right hook. And he definitely secured this round. Even though Hill did actually look a bit better this round, it wasn't really enough to overcompensate for him getting dropped twice. Another Rountree round. Round 4 opens up once again, a repeat of the last rounds, with Rountree kicking away at Hill. Hill's visibly on his last legs when it comes to his southpaw stance. He's constantly sort of switching out, and whenever he'd go back to southpaw, Rountree would kick at that front leg and it would just give out. Outside of that, Hill is forced to sort of stand in this orthodox position where he's not able to get as much power into his shots as he usually is. Hill in southpaw is usually where he finds most of his knockouts. He's able to generate a lot more power in that stance, and when he sort of wasn't allowed to get into that stance and had to stay in orthodox, even when he was landing on Rountree, it wasn't doing as much damage as it could have been. One thing that was annoying me though throughout this fight was at the end, last sort of minute of every round or 30 seconds, Hill would just sort of run. A lot of people complain about running away in the UFC nowadays. Rountree did run within the last 30 seconds of round 2 and 3 and 4, I think. Maybe even 5, but yeah. Round 4, very clear Rountree round. Round 5, pretty unimpressive round from Rountree. He's not really throwing as much, he's slowing down a lot. And he's not really targeting the legs anymore, but ultimately it was sort of Hill that lost himself this round. He didn't have any sense of agency in those closing minutes, and he didn't really risk it all to get a finish. I don't know whether he thought he was up a few rounds and he could take this one by decision, but he didn't really make an attempt to finish it. It goes to decision. Khalil Rountree takes a 50-45 decision that Jamahal Hill pretends to look shocked at. I don't know what Jamahal Hill was thinking when he went to that scorecard, but it's definitely possible that he got 50-45. In fact, I'd say that's how I scored it, at least. Very impressive performance from Rountree, and while he couldn't finish Hill, I think him beating him up for 5 whole rounds and getting a very dominant win deserves him to sort of fight upwards. I think maybe a Rakic fight or a Blachowicz matchup would be very nice for him next. Sort of one more fight to sort of get him in title contention. Hill, on the other hand, I think he has some real improvements to make with this performance. He looks really, really bad. At least with the Yuri fight, he was tagging Yuri up at times, but here he just sort of ate punishment for the whole round. He kept walking forward like a human punching bag. And he got knocked down twice by Khalil and just sort of never really managed to get back into the fight. So maybe give him a sort of an Azamat Mirzakhanov, maybe Volkan Ozdemir as sort of a rebound fight, but man, I don't know what to do with Hill after this, but yeah. So yeah guys, that was UFC Fight Night Hill versus Rountree and a breakdown of everything that happened. How did we do this card? Not great. I only got 58% of my predictions on who would win correct. And of those win predictions, I only got 43% of the methods correct, and most of those were decisions. In fact, all of them were decisions, so not the bravest of picks there. Cam, though, tied with me, so I guess we're even there, which is a silver lining, I suppose. He got 58% of his predictions correct, considering we pretty much had the exact same predictions as well. That kind of checks out. Man, the main and co-main really screwed me up here. Same with those 2 fights on the prelims, the women fights. But it is what it is. Where would I rank this card? Honestly, it was just average. In fact, there were bits where it was a bit below average, and then there was the Nazim Sadykhov fight, which was probably one of the best fights I've seen this year. So I'm very split on this card, but I'm gonna have to put it at the bottom of C tier, in between Sandhagen versus Figueiredo and Cannonier versus Rodriguez. Yeah, this card was sort of mixed emotions. There was the best fight of the year, arguably, in Sadykhov versus Motta, and then the main event was just kind of underwhelming. It was a complete domination, no competitiveness in it whatsoever. The co-main was similar, but it was a little bit more competitive. But just consistently, just decision wins where no one really wanted to put in that extra effort to make a statement. There were some good fights here and there. Tagir Ulanbekov versus Maksum was pretty good. Zalesniakova versus Mullins was pretty good. But outside of that, like, it was just kind of boring decision wins. So yeah, see you guys next week for UFC 317. That's a card that's not going to be boring, I can assure you that. And yeah, bye bye.